It is through the rugged landscape of Barrancos that the river Adilla borders with Spain and flows amid oak and cork trees until it reaches the river Guadiana. In the meantime, it describes a perfect meander before receiving the waters of the river Murtega. And here, where the two rivers meet, stands the castle of Noudar, where it has graced the landscape for 7 centuries. From here it is possible to see Herdade da Coitadinha, where generations of farmers have worked the fields and raised cattle, and where today nature thrives in the Noudar Nature Park. Since Edia acquired Herdade da Coitadinha in 1997, investments have been mainly related to nature conservation, based on high standards of environmental management. We are in a territory that belongs to the Natura 2000 network. In other words, an area considered a priority by the European Union for the conservation of biodiversity. In our case, the region is classified by the Habitats Directive under the Mora Barrancos National List and by the Birds Directive, Morão Mora Barrancos Special Protection Area. This priority involves a set of guidelines for the management of the territories classified. These management guidelines are followed to the letter at Noudar Nature Park, in agricultural and forestry work that is carried out here, and in the nature tourism too. For these reasons, the park was adapted to organize agroforestry activities as part of the conservation of its biodiversity. These methods are taken into consideration when planning the grazing and management of the Mertolengo beef cattle and the Alentejo pig, through joint action among the technicians of the park manager, the zootechnician, and the biologists responsible for monitoring the fauna and flora. The park has adopted a certified organic production method and a process of sustainable forest management, following the most stringent international standards. In 10 years of management, many forest fires have occurred in the neighborhood of Herdade da Coitadinha, but there have been no fires within the estate itself. The discovery of important examples of vegetation has brought about the redefinition of trails and the adaptation of animal grazing to the needs of conservation. The monitoring data shows that between 2004 and 2006, the richness and abundance of species have increased, and this has occurred during a period of full agricultural and tourist activity. This has been possible due to the investment made in the daily management of the natural patrimony that is found here. In 1997, Monte da Coitadinha was in ruins. It was rebuilt over the existing structures, carefully restoring and adapting spaces, giving it a new lease of life. Today, in 2008, the Noudar Natural Park is a nature tourism project that includes quality accommodation, combined with nature conservation, agroforest production, and the creation of tourist products associated with nature. The maintenance and improvement of existing infrastructures include the old mill on the river Murtega and the old animal herders' shelters known as chausses. The environmental quality in the management of water, energy, waste and biodiversity is oriented towards the certification of sustainability in the tourism component of the project. The biodiversity is analyzed with regards to the variety of species and their relative abundance, and the importance of each species in terms of conservation, with special attention given to species listed in the community directives and protected species according to international conventions. Radio tracking deer is a current practice that began 4 years ago. The aim is to monitor the movements of deer and ensure the integration of deer recently introduced into the existing population. These are research projects supported by the park infrastructure. From the results of the monitoring of the flora in the park, it was clear that in order to guarantee the conservation of some species, adaptations to land used for agriculture and tourism were required. The presence of these species led to the creation of grazing protection areas. Geranium malviflorum is a new species to Portugal. The closest populations are in Spain, some 160 kilometers from where they were seen. Ceratocapnus heterocarpa is a plant that usually grows in the understory or at the edge of the woods, usually in calcareous soils. It has only been seen in one place in Portugal, in the Algarve. The Iberian endemic Dianthus crassipes appears associated to rocky areas and dry, sunny and warm slopes. The species is rare in Portugal, occurring only in this region of the country, which is nearly the westernmost point of its Iberian distribution. Spiranthus aestivalis is a small orchid, which in spite of having a large distribution area, only appears occasionally and very rarely in the south of the country. It is in decline due to the destruction of its habitat. Fish monitoring provided an analysis of the diversity of the fish populations and allowed the characterization of fish populations in the River Ardila and the River Murtega. In the park, the quality and diversity of the river habitats are preserved through the management of the vegetation and the water. With survival more precarious in the drier summer months, special attention is given to the reduced aquatic habitats at this time. The populations maintained in these refuges provide the sources of recolonization of the watercourses when the rivers begin flowing again in the autumn and winter. Cattle are not allowed direct access to the watercourses. In this way, the quality of the water is protected, and critical refuges are preserved for river fauna during the summer months. Birds are often used as representatives of biodiversity. In the fields and hills on the estate, there is an abundance of species which are typical of open terrain, such as the corn bunting or the coloured-plumed bee-eater. The goldfinch and the linnet share the same space as the kestrel. The area covered by the gum rockrose shrub is characterized by the presence of species which are typical to these places, such as the Dartford warbler with its long tail. Areas with trees include expanses of oak-covered hills, woods, and wild olive groves. A number of tree-living species are particularly numerous in the estate, such as the beautiful chaffinch, the hoopoe with its long beak, the expressive blue tit, and even the greenfinch. Due to their protected status, the presence of the black vulture and other birds of prey in these biotopes is also of great interest. The riparian zone is significant in some stretches of the River Murtega and the River Ardila. In this biotope, mainly typical riparian species occur, such as the beautiful singing common nightingale and the colourful kingfisher with its long, strong beak. In the park, it is possible also to see typical aquatic species such as the grey heron and the mallard duck. The riparian zone includes rocky outcrops on ridges and river valleys. Species such as the blue rock thrush, the difficult-to-spot black storks, and the crag martin are all typical in this habitat. The black wheatear, a very rare species in the south of Portugal, has been recorded nesting in the park. Alongside built-on areas, we find barn swallows, house sparrows, and white storks. The diversity of species found here clearly shows that the work carried out benefits the land and the activities it hosts, and proves that it is based on high standards of environmental management. Noudar Natural Park is an example of the perfect application of conservation and natural values, such as sustained agriculture, forestry, and tourism management, contributing to the common objective of conservation of the biodiversity in territories belonging to the Natura 2000 network.